team, Grant Hagen here, joined with Brian Vizarreta. We are live. Welcome into the live broadcast. This is super exciting. We are live here at Procore Groundbreak 2022. Thanks for joining in with us. Tell us where you're tuning in from. We're really excited. We saw a lot of folks that were interested in tuning in with us today. Brian, it's going to be a really fun day. We got a lot of folks that are going to be joining in with us here today and tomorrow. So if you are also looking forward to seeing more content, we're going to be doing this at the same time tomorrow at noon Central Time for day 2. But we are on day 1, and it's already been a ton of fun. They wrapped up the keynote earlier this morning. We've had a couple folks swing by our booth. Brian, what's some of the kind of fun stuff that you've seen so far?
I mean, other than Spot kind of running around the open floor, I mean, it's kind of just great. I mean, we have some podcasts going. We have a ton of people stopping by the booth, and it's just kind of great to reconnect with people in person. You know,
so we want to give you guys a little bit of the behind the scenes. So we're going to walk backwards here a little bit and join in with us. This is what is really fun. I think the reason why we're doing some of this content is really for the folks that couldn't make it out to some of these conferences. And so what we're really excited to show you guys about, it's lunchtime, so you're not going to see a ton of folks that are out here on the floor, but really what we want to kind of show you guys in is a little bit of the behind the scenes. Procore is also streaming parts of their event online too, so if you haven't had a chance to see some of those sessions, be sure to check those out. But we're just going to give you guys a little tour of what's going on the floor. What I love the most about Procore's conference here at Groundbreak is just the way that they have this set up. Brian, I know this is your first time here at Procore, but what's kind of your first impression of just the floor, some of the vendors, some of the other stuff that's going on here?
Honestly, I just kind of love the flow of how everything's kind of broken out. Procore is kind of taking the center stage, and then you have different sections and different companies kind of broken up by interest. So that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I think what's really neat about this is we'll come over here. What I really like, the center stage at a lot of this is the Procore community part. If you guys haven't checked out Procore.org, there's some really exciting things that they do for education and just different resources that are out there for the construction industry. I mean, we have bags going on over here. I'm sure Brian and I are going to get into some of a little friendly bag competition. I've seen some booths that have, they have like foosball tables and different fun things like that. So personally, I love anytime that we can make some things really fun at some of these booths. But lastly, we're going to make a stop over here at our booth, the main DroneDeploy and Instruction Site booth, just to connect with some folks over here. But again, we will be tuning in live with some other folks that are going to be joining in with us here from our booth, which is the Built Different podcast booth, which will be where we're streaming live from. So, but yeah, really exciting. We got our booth right over here. You can see both the DroneDeploy and Instruction Site team. Brian, what are we looking at? Seeing both of these together, super fun.
A whole lot of Hawaiian shirts to begin. I mean, that's the first thing that
Oh
comes
man,
to mind.
I love it. I love it. Super fun to see some of this stuff here out on the table. We have all the fun DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise that's here for the folks that are interested in seeing what that looks like. We have a lot of 360 capture stuff here. I love seeing the Instruction Site hat and the stickers and all the fun stuff on the DroneDeploy table, and likewise over on the Instruction Site table. So really fun. If you guys are here at Groundbreak, please do stop by. It'll be really fun to meet you guys in person. If you're not, leave us some comments, chat with us here in this live session to be able to know where you guys are tuning in live from. We are going to pause to transition to our next segment here, so stay tuned with us and we will see you guys soon.
Some
All right, team, we are back here at our booth. This is just going to be really fun. We're going to go just talk to some folks candid, see what the reactions are, see what the live stuff is going on behind the scenes here. We're going to pull some people in. The first people I'm going to pull into this here, I'm going to totally interrupt and hijack this conversation, guys. Ashton, get in here. We're live from Procore here. Okay, so we got a lot of the DroneDeploy and instruction side team, which, I mean, let's talk about your guys' apparel here. Adam, I don't know, did you miss the memo?
I went old school.
You went old school. This is the old logo. This is really, really good here. So we are just giving some folks that can't make it some behind-the-scenes stuff, what's going on, reactions, thoughts. Did any of you guys get to go to the keynote?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so tell us what your thoughts were, what are some of the kind of takeaways?
I'm just super glad they're starting to dig more into pre-construction. I think one of the biggest challenges right now with some of the products that we've been doing is it's really hard to understand what the plan is when the plan is siloed in pre-construction. And then you start building, and you're building off legacy information that is dead after the project has been estimated. So the fact that they're starting to focus on getting pre-construction handoff to construction better solidified and data interoperability, I think is great. And it'll enable all of the workflows that we're trying to tackle.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know, Ashton, you've been talking to a lot of customers that have been here. What's been some of the feedback, whether on the DroneDeploy instruction side teams coming forward or just their excitement kind of being here at Groundbreak?
Yeah, they're just really looking forward to seeing what the integration looks like and how fast they're going to get it. So Bree's over here hard at work trying to get that.
I was going to say, that's a pretty fair thing that they're wanting. What's been some of the feedback that you've heard so far, just from a couple people that you've got to talk with?
Oh, just the exhaustion of going through different platforms, going through different tabs left and right. So they want to have it all in one solution, and just a click of a button, one password right there.
Yeah, totally. And if you haven't seen this booth, I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on here. We have demos, we have all this different stuff at the table itself. Ashton, Brianna, thank you guys for joining in with us. All right, let's keep going over here. Let's go see who else we can find in here too. Adam snuck away from me here, so I don't want to make. I want to make sure he doesn't get too far. No. I like the shirt. I think it looks really nice. So Adam is on the product side at instruction side. Tell me about just some of the customers that you got to talk with here at Groundbreak. What's some of the things that they're excited about? Or just some of the things that you're excited about too, with the teams coming together.
So we're doing a lot of things with location-based information in instruction site now. Many of the customers that we're talking to are very interested in understanding like what's happening on their project location by location.
Yeah.
And so just talking to them, gathering feedback. We're really early in the development process on this. And so this is like real-time customer feedback on
that's
new ideas.
That's the best kind. We didn't even highlight this. I know you guys. We just released this kind of location-based information. Why is that so important? I mean, I think that's something that we often start to see all this different data kind of aggregated into our platform. But why is location-based information something that our customers have been asking?
Great question. Construction is a location-based industry, right? We track things. I say we, from my past experience in construction, we track things by location in order to manage them properly, make sure that we're resolving constraints, make sure that work is happening where it's supposed to be happening all the time. Whether people acknowledge it in like a true definition of saying location-based, the industry is location-based. And so what we're doing with locations and what we're going to continue to do on top of locations is going to be the next wave of good information.
Totally. And if you haven't seen some of those features come out yet, we're really excited to put them in front of you guys just to get your feedback on it. And yeah, well said. I mean, I think the location-based information is something when you're wanting to resolve a problem, you're thinking where it happened first, right? Are there other things that you've heard just on the feedback side about locations of people's excitement around it?
Totally. And I think one of the big things, like you said, like when there's a problem, we want to know where. Yeah. But let's get ahead of the problem and figure out where is work even happening, right? And so location-based work detection, location-based understanding of what work is happening where, in different terms, I guess, is the next wave.
Yeah, so for sure. Well, Adam, you can go get a shirt. I'll go get a Hawaiian shirt. We're going to have some fun. Yes, and we will be, I think we just need to go to an island, I guess, with these shirts now, too. Let's make it happen. Adam, thanks so much for joining in with us. All right, we're going to go try to find some customers in here and just kind of see what their thoughts are around Groundbreak itself. If we can't find anyone, there's so many people here that they just got out of a session here recently. So we're going to probably take a pause here and actually see if we can wrangle someone in. So stick with us here. Again, if you are tuning into the live stream, thanks for joining in with us. Send us a note in the chat where you're tuning in from, any people that you maybe want to hear from, any questions that you have. We really want to be able to answer those for you, and we will see you here in just a little bit. Joined here with John Andres. This is really exciting. Longtime construction site customer. And how many Procores have you been to, or Groundbreaks have you been to?
This is my 4th in person, 2nd plus 2 virtual.
Okay, so I feel like at some point this is like, oh gee, you almost need like some pins for a backpack here to kind of say, hey, I've been to these things for a while. Having gone to so many of them, what's kind of been something this year that has stood out that you're really excited to kind of get back in person?
Man, this showroom floor is awesome. It's way bigger than it has been in the past. I really like the layout of it. Really, everything's spread out. We're not all jumbled now.
I think we were talking to some folks earlier, like kind of the layout really matters, right? Like it almost like fosters this ability to just like have these impromptu conversations. Tell us a little bit about the keynote, some of your takeaways, and the stuff that you heard this morning that got you really excited.
Yeah, the keynote was awesome this morning. Excited to see some of the stuff come out. Been a part of some of these betas that have come out. The Conversations beta is really cool. Yeah. So excited to see that one actually roll out and us be able to use it a little bit more. What they were saying about the data insights into things. I mean, we've had the Insights beta for a little bit, and it's powerful. Yeah. Showing that recently to all of our project managers, able to show them where RFIs are written in the project and stuff like that, and like the general condition spend. And how that's trending, and if we're going to be above or below, or it's some pretty awesome stuff.
John's being pretty humble here. He gets access to some really great stuff, really before it comes out too. Tell us a little bit about your guys' relationship with Procore and really how you guys have been able to really be a part of that feedback loop for them. Yeah,
so we joined Procore in 2009, so this is year 13 for us.
Again, another pin. I think that could be another pin on the other side there.
Yeah, I'm waiting until the point where I've used Procore more than half my life.
Nice.
But I mean, it's been a really, like what they were saying back there, it's a two-way street. It's their platform's really reliant on the feedback that we give them, and then they go and build what we need, right? So I think it's been an awesome part, and definitely going public hasn't really changed that and impacted that. There's a little bit more these red lines to go through, but. I think overall it's been really good.
When you think about 2023 Groundbreak, what's some of the things that kind of come to mind that you're excited to kind of see come into fruition? Not necessarily announced from today or just in general, but like I think how fast things change is always what gets people really excited. Tell me about some of the stuff as you think about Groundbreak next year that you're already excited about.
I'm excited about the Foo Fighters coming. We're gonna.
Is that a shameless plug?
Yeah, or Blink-182. That'd be really cool too. No, I'm really excited to see how the Procore Connect is what they're calling it now. It used to be Procore to Procore. Procore Connect, I think, is going to be really cool. We've got some joint ventures coming up and some projects where we're going to be working with people that also have Procore on their company, and then we have subcontractors that are now becoming Procore customers. So how that all works out, I think I'm really excited to see how the next year kind of goes with that, and hopefully next year at Groundbreak, it's like no-brainer. Everything's working perfectly.
The Connect part's really interesting because, you even said it well on the subcontractor end. It's like, hey, we don't want to build more data silos than we need to, and like, how do these things connect within themselves? I was really encouraged talking about pre-con a little bit more too in the keynote. Tell me some of your thoughts on the pre-con side of it that get you excited.
Yeah, the pre-con stuff is pretty exciting. I really like the AI of it doing the pre-con work for us. Yeah. Really tying into the models is going to be really cool. We just need to have more projects that are doing modeling, I think, for that to really benefit us. Yeah. But the bid leveling stuff looked really awesome. Yeah. I'm definitely going to spend a little bit of time after the conference checking that one out a little bit more.
Okay, I'm going to right turn here a little bit before I let you go. Long-time Struction Site customer. Yes. And know that you guys use drones, which is really exciting too.
Actually, I found Struction Site at Procore.
We did too.
Groundbreak.
Yes.
Yeah.
The company I came from also found here. So like the cool part about this expo floor, right, is like these are actually like very tangible relationships that get formed here. What's your thoughts on kind of aerial and ground coming together, and I feel like this is a good first reaction for about the Struction Site and DroneDeploy.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I think it's just a really good merger of two great companies. The drone side from DroneDeploy of being able to program flights and I think I saw Spot walking around here a little bit earlier, and like being able to program him, and then combining that with the 360 capture that we're doing just on the drawings. I think that's going to be really cool. Having all that stuff in one place. You said data silos, like getting rid of data silos and having capture here and capture there, and having it all in one place, I think just makes the most sense. Yeah. So
it's funny, we're trying to think of other hashtags, other slogans, other ideas, and the one that is like clearly risen to the top is it just makes sense, and you said it too.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I will let you go, fellow Dallas folks. So man, we're across not across the way, but not too far from Dallas, but one state away. Yeah, pretty much. So John, super fun. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
We will catch up with some more customers here in a little bit and talk to you guys soon. Thanks.
I'll send you something. I'll show you some. I have all those AI classes recorded.
Are you guys
They're
ready
pretty
for
cool.
this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, what do you guys want to talk about?
Well, first we have to start with our jingle. This jingle, guys, is very New Orleans. I mean, this is stock jingle on this Roadcaster. Wait for it. And we are back with the Built Different podcast brought to you by DroneDeploy and Instruction Site. I'm joined with my co-host, Mr. Brian Vizarreta, and Martin and Joe. Guys,
Hello.
great to have you on. This is amazing.
Thank you. This is
It's
great.
great to be here.
Is this your guys' first Procore conference that you've been to?
It is mine, yeah.
Okay.
For me too. I just made a tour, looked at the whole thing. It's really impressive.
It is impressive. This is this your first? This is your first. This is your first. Okay. So this is, I think, my third that I've been to, but it really is one of the better premier construction. There's probably a handful, 2 or 3 different premier construction conferences that are out there, but super personable people, really great crowds of folks that attended. And so my hope is that you guys get to meet some really good people throughout the week. But without further ado, I want to introduce the two of y'all because our listeners and folks that are tuning in probably don't know you two. And so Brian and I have had the pleasure to work with you guys. But Martin, I'll start with you. You're on the Instruction side. Joe is on the DroneDeploy side. We are live here from Procore Groundbreak, which is just really exciting. We're bringing back the Built Different podcast, which we'll talk a little bit more about here later. But Martin, tell us a little bit about your background, your role at Instruction Site, and then Joe will kind of get to a little bit of your stuff.
Sure. Been with the company for just over a year. New to the industry as well. Came from cybersecurity into here, and it's just been nothing but warm welcomes and just a fantastic experience of dealing with technology and dealing with, I'll say, an industry that is just ripe for innovation. And that's the cool part, is you're really dealing with companies that are just pushing themselves day in and day out to try and get the best technology out there to improve the industry. And you're surrounded by people like yourselves that are all interested, coming from the industry, working for technology companies, and participating in that is actively, it's palpable. You can feel the energy, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's cool that this event is here and putting it all on and showcasing it all at the same time. And I'm just having a great time here, learning a lot. My background, a lot of process automation, workflow automation. So when they said the word workflow, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And now with DroneDeploy and working together for both interior and exterior capture and seeing where the possibilities of where these technologies combined can go is super exciting.
Awesome. Martin, tell us what your role or title is at Instruction Site, just for folks to know. Yeah, no, you're great.
So I'm the head of sales for the AEC division
Okay.
now of DroneDeploy's head of sales and revenue operations for Instruction Site prior to the merge. And now be heading up the construction division for DroneDeploy.
Love it. It's awesome. Joe Boise, without further ado.
Hey, Grant.
This is super exciting, Joe.
It is.
I've
super
been
exciting.
waiting. You've been hounding me about making a podcast.
Exactly.
I think the first time we met, you're like, do you know that you have a podcast voice? And I was like, I don't really listen to myself often. But Joe, please introduce yourself. This is super exciting. I feel like now
Joe
that we're...
Boise or Joe Boise, whichever way you like to call it. Again, similar to Martin, I've been in the company. I've been in DroneDeploy only for almost a year now. Not a year. In fact, we joined over the same time, you and I, Grant. First time in this kind of a role in the construction world, if you like, but I've been a lot in the tech industry, software primarily, mainly in AI, in analytics. Been in Silicon Valley for over 20 plus years. My role is in marketing, so I'm head of marketing for the company, and I'm super excited with this joint forces. This is going to be super, super exciting. And one thing about you, as you said, in the first time we met, I told you we need to get going on the podcast. I can't be more than super excited with seeing you both now. This is going to be a really cool podcast, and I think a lot of people will see value in it because not only it brings your expertise and your know-how, but also you're going to bring people together that are going to talk about what's happening not only now, but what's going to happen in the next few months, few quarters, because that's a big question, like how technology is helping us today move forward in this whole new world of the reality capture.
Yeah, well said. We just got done talking with someone that talked about, we were asking him, how does this grow from one job site to 5 job sites to 15 jobs? And he's like, man, it's really done through a community. And what was really fun about that is we were kind of getting excited about this idea of, hey, this is kind of another community of folks that maybe not at a specific company, but may not have that community at their company, but can still feel connected to a community that is talking about this information and really pushing that innovation forward too. Brian, we don't have to introduce you, but I mean, come on, let's go full round table here.
Yeah. So everybody, my name is Brian Vizarreta. I work on the solutions marketing, and now I'm heading up the ADR sales team on the construction site side for the meantime. My background is I worked in the field on the superintendent side, and then also as the innovation manager for a company called Consigli up in Boston. So, large scale GC, kind of started essentially what was like a reality capture program there, and then just worked with field teams to make sure whatever we were doing wasn't just pretty tech or wasn't just some marketing type play. It's more of an actual a use case, a problem, implementing, and then making sure that's a repeatable process kind of for the rest of the company.
Yeah. A little bit about and what's funny is I think pretty much everything you said very similar to the role that I had, which came from a general contractor, architecture firm, got exposed to this idea of virtual design and construction and reality capture pretty early on in my career. It helped with this kind of reality capture initiative within the company, involved a lot of drones, involved a lot of 360 cameras, involved a lot of laser scanning applications, and used both of these tools very heavily in the industry, construction site and DroneDeploy. And it's really fun. It's fun being on this side of it now, trying to help enable more companies to embrace this idea, see this idea of simplicity in this reality capture space. So
it's even funny you say that. So construction site and DroneDeploy are the first two enterprise licenses I purchased, and fast forward 4 or 5 years now, I'm working for essentially both now. It's kind of insane, see that come full circle, and I'm glad because I'm like, oh, I know the products, thankfully. Like, if we were to get acquired by another company, I wouldn't know. I don't know how it would feel, but at least this combination just made so much sense, right? Like, when you were implementing technology, you saw a need for the interior and the exterior, and it wasn't like a matter of but it was a matter of where you kind of needed both, and then you approach each project differently. I'd love to talk more and hear that story on your side, Grant.
Yeah, totally. We'll get to that because that is for sure on the list of things that we're going to talk about. I'm curious to hear from you got something, Joe? Go for it.
I have a question for you, for both of you, in fact, which is regarding what you just said.
Oh,
which
boy.
Is like having
Joe's turning the tables on us here. Come on, let's go. This is great.
So, regarding, like, I'm a construction site customer, and someone tells me, hey, there's something called DroneDeploy that now joined the party, or vice versa. I'd like you to role play on it. And you can be a DroneDeploy customer talking about construction site, and you can be a construction site customer talking about DroneDeploy. What would be the first thing, like the first one thing that you would say to them, this is why it makes perfect sense?
I mean, the first thing I would do is I'd ask them what type of projects you got, right? And kind of showing that there are blind spots if you have new build construction that aren't using drones, or if you have a renovation project and you're only using drones for the exterior, but you're not using 360s for exploratory work. I would first just start with like, what projects are you working on? And then making sure that you have everything you need for every single project. And then DroneDeploy and construction site both pick that up in different areas. That's pretty much it. Like, if you don't have essentially both, you have blind spots on areas that you could still be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, blind spots is a really good way to say it. I think this is a really bad analogy, so I'm just prepping everyone here. It's kind of like when this is so bad. I'm just preparing you guys. It's kind of like when you're putting together a puzzle and you get to the end and you don't have that like last couple pieces, and you're like, was that worth it? Like, was that really worth my time and energy?
That's a great analogy, by the way.
And it's hard because you want to have with confidence before you start something that you're using the right tool that can capture everything. And I think what's hard is, a lot of these point solutions have really proven the value of capturing at different phases of the life cycle of construction. But the challenge is that you've had to hop from one and go to another and teach another and train another and implement it. Like, it's just really challenging when you don't have the complete picture. And I think the resounding feedback from the industry is for sure, like, this just makes sense. But I think it makes sense because it completes the full picture. We were talking last week with Brianna, who is on the construction site side, explaining what she's excited about. And she's like, man, I never thought of the day where I'd be able to see the interior of a wall and see the exterior of a wall in the same platform. And I kind of stopped. I was like, yeah, that just makes sense. So I think from the DroneDeploy side of it, we've always been really efficient and effective of capturing a job really early on with drones. earthwork phase, the site moving phase, the structural phase, like that's a really easy low hanging fruit for drones to be valuable and just how much it can capture. But when we've gotten to the interior, we've had some limitations. We've not really been as far along as some of the construction site team and product has been. And so, yeah, the resounding motto is it just makes sense. And I think for us as DroneDeploy customers, we want to take that same high value, high efficiency workflow into the inside of the building. And that is happening. Like that's something that we can actually start to do.
Yeah, and there's some things just, on the implementation side, when you're within a company, it's one thing for somebody saying, oh, I don't believe in this technology, because there is room for growth and you can kind of expose them to the actual use case and change their mind. But the worst absolute thing in the world is when you have a field team asking you for technology now that they're open-minded, and you have to give them a break. Like you have to give them a wall. They're like, oh, this is great. I understand what this is now. Can we use it for this? And if you can't say yes, you will lose people's interest very quickly. And the more times you say no to that field team because they have a direct problem that they need help with, you're going to lose them as a believer in capabilities. And they're going to be like, oh, this isn't ready for us. What we need, give me a call back in a couple of years.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
One thing I'll say is you said it best, Grant. It's like, it just makes sense. As we've kind of like started broadcasting this to the field and telling people, and people coming to us since the announcement and saying, gosh, it makes so much sense. That is a direct result of they feel the effort that they have to put in to get both sides of the equation solved, lowering, right? When you lower the effort, you gain loyalty. So that is going to manifest. And I think in our customers in the field, and it's going to spread, is be like, if you want it all done in one place and you want it done easily, go here. And I think that in and of itself is it's already an industry packed full of high effort, high duration type of work. And if you could just offer one bit of relief, I think that'll go a long way.
And even to say that, it's like, it's one thing for if construction sites started trying to build some drone functionality. It would be at best, a very attempt at a workaround where DroneDeploy is a 9-year-old, multiple year company, has worked on thousands and thousands of projects, has been proven time and time and again. It just makes more sense to combine as a company than for one company to go try to do either or, because, there's thousands of hours of research and development, project teams that they've talked with. Those products don't just get built in a silo, they get built with the use of customers, right? So I think for the end user, they're going to be the ones that benefit the most, because this timeline just sped up, right? Like we both could have just better together is literally what we're talking about, right? Like let's just combine, get the end customer what they want, and now we only have one place where we can kind of move forward with.
So back to that point, and I think both of you can address this point. If I'm a customer of construction site today, I've never used drones before. I have been maybe intimidated by drones because I thought, oh, this is complicated. I'm going to have to hire pilots, get drones, get permissions, licenses, whatever. It's kind of maybe overwhelming. What do we say to them today?
Yeah, I can take that. Or
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you're coming at this kind of merging together from the construction site end, it's like the tool that we've been using is a 360 camera. We've been walking around a job site. Anyone can do that. I can, pay an intern. I can have someone on the team do it. I can do a safety guy or a gal. Or the drone stuff is inherently more technical. And I think what you said, Brian, that makes a lot of sense is like, yes, it is more technical, but we've been doing this for 9 years. Like we've heard what our customers have needed, and that is simplicity. Like I love that. That's like one of the core values at DroneDeploy is, you take a very, what seems to be on paper pretty complex technology of like you're flying something. Like let's pause there and say like, hey, something is in the air moving, doing an activity. But the best part about it, I mean, time and time again, and this is a resounding message of when we train folks on construction site was, oh man, this is easy. You're telling me I hook this up to my phone and I walk around and I get all this value. That is like the resounding message on the DroneDeploy side of, wait, like you just plan this mission and it goes and captures it, and I just upload all that information, and it takes like, it's a very similar feel that I would want to tell people that are curious about drones. Hey, the hype is real. Like the value is real. and the outcome and the input of the simplification of it is also very, very real. And sometimes, that's going to take you seeing it, and it's going to take you embracing and trying to see it for yourself. But I get really excited about, our flight services team and kind of this opportunity for you to see it with pretty much no risk. It's like, hey, I want to see where drones can be helpful.
Maybe you can double click on flight services.
Yeah, flight services is a really easy concept. It's within DroneDeploy, there's a data on demand section where you plan a couple missions, basically draw a polygon of your job site, what you want to capture, panoramas, videos, progress photos. It's really an easier form of ordering something, and you can say, hey, I want this information, and the data on demand function enables our flight services team to know what that request is. We go through our pilot network that can come out, runs through all the safety protocols that you would want and expect on your job site, who you need to talk to, where you need to take off from, all those different details. And then 2 or 3 days later, you see the data within your platform, and you're interacting with it. You're putting overlays on it. You're measuring off of it. And I think that's we have some customers that's the only way that they interact with drones. They don't own a drone. They don't train anyone.
So that's an important piece that you're saying, is that you don't have to have a drone program, quote unquote, in-house in order to be able to use DroneDeploy.
Yeah. If you want a drone program, we are going to be there and help enable that along the way. If you want the data from what drones can provide, we are right there equally as much along the way.
Yeah, and the most interesting part, right, is most of the time it's not like people are just completely curious. Most of the time they have a drone in the office that has dust on it, and they haven't used it because they were like, well, we bought the thing, and we don't really know how to work it, and we don't know anything about flight clearances. So,
which would tell me that they see the value that it can provide, but they don't know how to be enabled of how to unlock that value. And that's where the two parts of DroneDeploy can come in. Like, hey, you want to fly this thing on your own? Great, we'll be there for you. Hey, you don't want to fly this? You would rather just send someone out and have it be done for you? Hey, we'll help you on that front.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to point out there. Absolutely.
So maybe we should talk about the reality capture.
Yeah.
And you heard it many times from us talking about when we started, in fact, the story of the reality capture, unified, automated, and then intelligent. So unified, we're together here. We see the shirts differences. That tells what it is. It's
I'm
unified.
jealous. Brian and I talked about a jersey swap. I was like, oh man, I don't have a cool Hawaiian jersey swap.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is something we need to do. Absolutely. So that's the unified part. Then the automation part. I want to chime in on that specifically because the automation is specifically for people who've been using, like as you said, a stick or a hard hat with a camera on. They say, okay, we've done it over and over. A human being is doing it. Can I automate that? And the beauty of it is now with DroneDeploy, since we have had for a while now the acquisition of Rocos a couple of years ago, we have all the technology to make that happen. As you can see earlier, you see Spot roaming here. That is not something now. In the past, I went to Boston Dynamics a couple of months ago. I sat down with them. There's a change in the whole philosophy of automation. In the past, it used to be only like, hey, this is a proof of concept kind of thing. Yeah. You go there, the innovation team is putting that together, and then at the end, like it ends up being on a shelf somewhere in the innovation team. Now it's no longer that. Mm-hmm. Now it's a real product. It's a real production thing that you can do, and we have all the ways to get you going. So it means that if a customer is already using that, like for example, 360 camera in and out every day, 5 times a day or 1 time a day, this can be completely automated and done with the system. And that's another great story with the combination of
I mean, on the automated front, the thing that I'm excited about, which may kind of seem lackluster, is like, hey, at least we're talking about it, right? I mean, I think a lot of people have a wide range of expectation of what automated means. But I think at the end of the day, you're not going to innovate in something that you're not working in. And, Brian mentioned like, hey, DroneDeploy's been at this for 9 years. Like the Rocos team had been at it for 4+ years before we even got brought on the scene with them.
And for people who don't know, Rocos is the robotics division, handling the Spot and a lot of the robots, just to clarify people on the podcast.
So this isn't new territory for us. And I mean, we all know this, like innovation takes time, but if you're not talking about it, that's what I'm most concerned about is there's no quantum leaps in innovation and technology. Like there are maybe a handful across different industries, but this isn't one of them. Construction's dirty. It's complex. It's challenging. It's changing. and automation will have to address all of those functions. But with that to say, like, we are starting to like understand what those problems are and understand what those needs are. And on top of that, it's not just automating on the ground. Like, we're already starting to automate in the air. So it's like you can't just focus on one and leave the other behind. You really have to address them from both perspectives. And what's exciting is, like, Spot isn't new to the construction site team on the ground. They maybe were exploring it a little bit behind where we were on the Roco side of it in the acquisition of them. But these three pillars of unified, automated, and intelligent, in their own way, were very much the identity of Struction Site, and they're very much the identity of DroneDeploy. And I think that's what's exciting, is these parallel lines start to come together and really start to take off.
It's an interesting thing about automation. I've been in automation a long time. And one of the things that people get scared about is they think automation is hands-free, right? And if you flip it and you start talking about automation as a strong assist, then people get interested. They lean into it. You know, they're like, oh, I was like, this is going to help me move forward, and I won't have to think about some of the things that are more mundane on a day-to-day basis. And I think that curiosity is where we have to draw people in, because their curiosity is out there. You mentioned it, right? They bought a drone, they put it on the shelf. They were curious at some point. Same thing will be for the robots, right? There's curiosity there. We have to bring them in and teach them that it's an assist and not necessarily a hands-free deal.
Well said.
Absolutely. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah, in fact, there's something that I want to point out here, which is, I'm not going to be like an English buff here, but the reality is that we're using automation on purpose as a term and not autonomy. It's because automation means that you are telling, this is a mission, as you said, this is kind of an assist, is what I want you to do this every day at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m., whatever, do this tour, 3 miles, 2 miles, whatever, come back and dock. Autonomy, in theory at least, it could be, okay, this is your mission, but maybe the robot, quote unquote, decides that, oh, this is not a good time to do it. I'm autonomous. I can decide what I like to do. So that's why we try to use automation versus autonomy, although many people use it interchangeably.
There's three, I heard this last week, and I hope we kind of start to interchange this as a part of the autonomous part of it. There's three terms in construction of where I think autonomy is going to really impact it. Because I love what you said, like, the education piece has to be the kind of leading edge to get people to understand why we're going in that direction. And it's dull, dangerous, or there's a third D, and I'm gonna miss it.
DroneDeploy.
Maybe that's the third. But it was these three phrases that I was like, man, I can't think of what the third D is now. But dull and dangerous, right? Which I was like, yeah, that makes it, like, that's where autonomous and autonomy is really going to play the most in construction, because those two factors are really going to be the spot where that comes into and have the most impact.
Right, like you guys are working in the mines, right? So I need to start saying we.
Yeah,
we are working. We are working in the mines, right? And that's where you're sending one of these spot robots to go deep into the mine and do an inspection and come back and report back.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great use case.
Dirty. That was the third one.
Dirty.
Dull, dirty, and dangerous. Gosh, I don't know why I just came back. But the dirty part too, yeah. It's like, hey, like, if that's, well, it's kind of in kind of some of those aggregates in mining applications, like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, let's send something in there that's not a human, maybe, to be a little bit safer, maybe be a little cleaner. Yeah, well said. Joe, these are great questions. Keep firing at us here.
This is one more thing I wanted to add to the conversation here, which is the use of the term digital twin.
Yeah.
We don't use it a lot in the construction world, but it is there.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to feel like shying away. This is complicated, IoT, stuff like that. Reality capture is an enabler of digital twins. So you're basically building a digital twin, except this is a dynamic digital twin. It's not like a typical thing that you have in a factory where everything is like, you press a button, things move on and up and things like that. It's more about understanding, having basically a digital representation of your physical asset, which in this case is a dwelling, is a building, is whatever, is a hospital you're doing. And therefore you're able to monitor basically the progression, the movement, basically the evolution of that digital twin as we go along. And I think the industry should not shy away from using digital twin, and it's not only for specific types of application. And I'm glad to see at this conference here, many of our basically colleagues and competitors are using the term digital twin.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah, what's your take on digital twin, Brian? I mean,
yeah, so a little bit about my background at my graduate research project was something called Virtual Harvard. where I digitized 135 buildings, interior and exterior, and then, we started tying in sensors to things. And an interesting point about the concept of the digital twin is a lot of people on the owner side are super excited about it as their building's wrapping up, right? This is something that has to be thought about when your building's even in conceptual design. And as the construction is going on, it's more of a workflow process, having photos of the interior before the wall, like even drywall is on, is going to give you so much more information for what you want to get closer to. The problem is people are trying to retrofit already closed up buildings, and we want to make a digital twin of this. I mean, at that point, it's really just like digitizing that existing building as opposed to being a true digital twin.
Yeah, I think the challenge around because you and I have talked about this, Joe. Like, there's a lot of education that needs to go around what it is, why it's effective, how it enables, like all the big questions. And yeah, I don't think it's a bad term to use. I think the challenge that we have in construction is like we have so many acronyms, we have so many phrases, we have so many things that like a lot of people just kind of throw out there and they don't really know what it means. And my hope is that we can be a part of the narrative of what a digital twin is, why it's effective, how we are enabling it. I think until we really go down that path of the education piece of like what you were saying, Brian, what it is, like when should we be considering it? Why is that important? And it's fascinating because other industries use other terms, and we try to kind of cross-pollinate those terms, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I think enabling the digitization of a job site, if we're going to call that, producing and helping towards enabling a digital twin, that's great. It's something, honestly, I need to kind of do some research on of like, hey, what's the best definition that I've heard? How's the best way to describe it? Because I think what you said too, Brian, is really true. Is like the stakeholders who are using it the most are probably the ones that are the most educated, and the ones that aren't using it probably don't have any. I was like, I don't know what that is. Like, why is that important to me?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I almost think of a digital twin as like a living, breathing organism in itself, right? Like it's a live feed of everything going on in that building. I mean, for example, I could create a photogrammetry model of this table, right? Call it a digital twin, and then I move Joe's glasses. It is no longer a digital twin, right? Because that photogrammetry model is not an accurate representation of what this model is. Mm-hmm. So, sorry. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's going to be one of the terms, but just pulling back, something I constantly talk to you about, Martin, is just simplifying the message. Like, there are still so many people out there that are still learning what a 360 camera is, and that they're even, at a price affordable as lower 400s, right? There is a large majority of the people that we're talking to that are still discovering like what each of our products even do. And then we have a different bucket of people who've been using us for years who are looking at like, how do we bring this to the next level?
Yeah.
So sometimes with a lot of these terms, we have to be very, very careful to not make unrealistic expectations, because if you want to go the digital twin route, you have to have already a process in place to do the initial groundwork, right? Like the scanning, the capture, everything there. And, people will just learn about 360 cameras in 2 seconds. Like, oh, well, can I have a spot dog automated? It's like, yeah, but we got to get to like your setup process first, right? Like there are definitely intervals to how far you can go.
Yeah, and that's a big part, I think, as we're kind of wrapping things up here, why we are putting out content like this. It's like, hey, it starts with a conversation. It starts with some sort of kind of education piece of an interest, and then hopefully some resources to help learn about it. But
to wrap up, I think I'd like to throw an idea to you guys and tell me what you think. You started the conversation, Brian, by giving an example of where ground and air capture, reality capture makes sense. What do you think about it with our customers, joint customers who are both customers on both sides or not, to give us their ideas about things that make sense for us to basically tell the story of the force, the power, basically of air and ground capture, and get them into a nice place where people can see the value of both together.
I mean, that's even funny because the last project I worked on when I was in the field side was a project in Cambridge, 11-story building, and we use DroneDeploy every week, and we use Struction Site every week throughout the entire building. You can still go into the Struction Site photos, and I would bring in the DroneDeploy 360 stills in Instruction Site, you can spin up and I can see the DroneDeploy logo with Instruction Site. So you already have projects that both have been used on, right? Like, I'm sorry, we already have projects that both have been used on, right?
I need to get my
all we
horn
really need to do is take a lot of those use case and those case studies and just align the, oh, have you used both? Let's dive deeper in how you used each interchangeably, because when we were asking for questions, they were only giving us feedback related to how they use the 360 cameras. When DroneDeploy was talking to them, right? So now we just have to kind of combine forces, but especially for that project, I have a 2-year new build construction from ground to the finish, drone and 360 cameras throughout the entire process, right? And
Hashtag better together.
Hashtag better together.
Yeah, and I think too, as we're kind of exploring this new space of this information together, there's going to be there's stories that we're going to hear from customers that we just don't even know yet, and I think that's what gets really exciting too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what you're really talking about, ever since I've been introduced to this industry, I've always noticed that folks along the entire, what I'll call, the value chain, right? So whether you're a PM or a superintendent or a VDC manager or a vice president of operations or an owner, everybody has some benefit they derive from these technologies. And it's our jobs now, coming from both sides as I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
And Joe, good question, is that now that as you zoom out and you see exterior, interior, and all the people involved along the value chain, what does that manifest into in terms of an ultimate benefit, right? That we probably haven't even discussed yet because we haven't had that conversation.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really important.
And the value prop I love what you said too, because it's different at different levels, right? Like you talk about some leadership levels of like, gosh, we have so many tools. Like, why are we not consolidating these tools, right? All the way down to the superintendent that has that same pain point or has that same idea, but for them, it's a matter of means to an end. Like, hey, I'll use those tools if I need to get the job done. So I think that's what's exciting is we'll start to capture some really unique stories of what those value props are at different parts. But I mean, Joe, to your question of like the stories of having this information together is really going to start to increase because we've been kind of piecemealing this thing together. Like what Brian's saying, hey, I brought drone data in Instruction Site, and we would bring some of that information into DroneDeploy from some of our ground capture that we had. But the stories are going to really start to explode. And we were just talking to a gentleman earlier that, he was talking about his excitement that, he gives these tools to jobs with kind of, hey, this is the prescription. Here's how you should use it. And then a month or 2 months, a year later, they come back with something completely different. Yeah. And I think that's what gets exciting too is when you start to give tools to people and not necessarily prescribing, hey, do A plus B equals C, but really say, hey, here's really the whole alphabet. Write the story and kind of prescription that you want and that you need. That's what's going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, so we're wrapping up. Appreciate the questions. This is a totally change and turn of table here. Joe Boise leading our podcast efforts here. But really appreciate you guys coming on. We will wrap things up here from the live segment. The lights just came back on here too. So I think that's our wrap. But thank you guys again. We will see you back on the next episode of Built Different. Thanks, team.
Thank you.